Backstage in the Artist Lounge at Rock on the Range 2018. I'm Lou Brutus. Chad Nicefield from Wilson joins me now.
With the world-famous Lou Brutus.
That would be me, although you don't look like Chad today. You look like my old compatriot, the late, great Dr. Hunter S Thompson. Shit.
The truth of the matter is...
Do the hair, by the way. Show.
The truth of the matter is, this is actually Chad Nicefield, and I'm getting to experience it the way that I want to experience it for the first time in a long time, and it feels awesome.
Excellent. On the hat, if
Yes.
you would show the hat, is that a dose on the tongue?
There's absolutely a blotter hit of LSD on the tongue of our smiley face. Yes.
And explain what that means to you and the music you have done before and your life.
So, Wilson went through a very dark period of time, and to get on the other side of that, I was experimenting with different things in my life to add to this darkness, to try to find some sort of lightness, and I stumbled upon this article that I had read by Timothy Leary, which then segued my newfound fascination with Hunter S Thompson, and I started to take microdoses of LSD over the course of like 3 months and a couple of months off, a couple of months on. And the reason why I was doing it was I was trying to find a perspective that was completely new and fresh, or a part of me that I never really tapped into before. And through that experiment, I had found a new love for our band and music in general, and what we kind of wanted to do and what I've always wanted to do. And then we just started to write a record, and the whole record was pretty much written over the course of a year while I was microdosing on LSD. So hence the hat and all that other stuff, yeah.
There was actually believed early on in the history of LSD to be a use for it in psychiatry. And recently there was a great article in the New York Times.
I read that.
Did you see that too? Yeah, about the reintroduction of that by some doctors. What do you think of that?
I think it's brilliant. I think the usage of, when you're controlling it and using it for the right way and not trying to abuse it to get some sort of like overly euphoric high, if you're trying to find something, particularly for me, in somebody else's life that you can correlate to, that usage has defined my current existence, so I'm all about it. Long play, even back years ago, I'd taken acid when I was in high school for the first time and had like this crazy tripped out experience, and I had no idea what was happening. I was super afraid of these things, and then I went on this like soul searching journey a year and a half ago to Vietnam. I went and surfed in Bali and all these places, and I met this guy who had asked me to take mushrooms with him, and I had never taken mushrooms in my life. And I woke up in the morning, and I instantly remembered, first thing I thought about was this thing that I said to my mother and my father a couple of weeks prior, that my tone kind of sucked, and I just thought about how they were living and sitting with that tone that I kind of delivered to them, and it made me start to think about how I was delivering myself all around the place.
And the vibes you put out and how it affected
others.
Yeah.
And how that all correlates into one piece of fabric. That's so weird and deep, and I'm so I don't even know if it's deep enough, but it's super weird to be at a rock and roll.
I'm talking about this stuff, and just one more in this vein, because then I'd like to talk about new music, but I think what some people have found who have taken psychedelics through the years is after a while it stops showing them things. I've heard the term, it helps me think around corners, but after a while it just becomes a light show, and
Yeah.
So there's a fine line there for some people.
And that's never any reason to, in my...
That was me watching Trails, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're doing. But
I only know what I read about.
And it's just from the New York Times. But actually, when I came, we did the record, segueing into that, we did the record in Los Angeles, and I met this fellow that was a friend of a friend, and he was microdosing, living in Silicon Valley, microdosing, working on all these weird apps and stuff like that. And we started to have this like cool relationship because I was doing the same thing. I just met him through like a social situation at a bar or whatever, and then we would talk to each other every day that we microdosed, and would walk ourselves through the experience that he was having and I was having and whatnot, and try to try to like shaman each other, I suppose. It was awesome.
So was this turning into a Carlos Castaneda novel at this point?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Don Juan was my favorite in that because he had a great sense of humor with how he'd scare the crap out of people with the visions. But now, where are you at with new music, and when might we hear something? I know you know at least probably the first single.
Yeah, I mean, it's all done. We finished the record about 4 or 5 months ago. We finally chose what the first single was going to be off of the record.
And that is?
Like a Baller. That comes out June 22nd, I think. If I'm remembering all of my dates right, it's June 22nd. The record's actually coming out the end of August. And then we're back to it. We're back on the road and doing all that other fun stuff. And
what can you tell us about Like a Baller, other than that it's one of the great song titles in history?
Again, going into that perspective thing, it's a silly, happy song about this valet driver that you think I'm talking like I'm this grandiose character full of like all of these incredibly gold and lavish things or whatever, but it just turns out I'm driving somebody else's car. And the idea of this song is based around like one of these days I'm going to get over that hump, of being this shitty dude driving a valet car, because we've all been there. I don't drive valet cars, but I'm still the shitty dude that's doing this other things. You just kind of dream. It's like a dreamer song, but it's hilarious.
Well, there you have it. Valet drivers, new music, and LSD. Chad Nicefield from Wilson. Always a pleasure.
Lou Brutus. Thanks for having me.
By the way, what's your favorite Hunter Thompson quote?
My favorite Hunter Thompson quote?
We were somewhere outside of Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold. No, that's not it.
No.
What about, I felt like a monster reincarnation of Horatio Alger, a man on the move and just sick enough to be totally confident.
It's the
by the way, I'm not reading this. You can back me up. I'm not reading.
No,
he's all stuck in my head.
Yeah, which is it's embarrassing the shit out of me, because I'm like, what about that time that he shot that gun and then he looked over to his best friend and said,
"No more of that talk."
Yes,
or I'll put the leeches on you.
Yes, exactly. There it is. Sorry. Look at this guy. Fuck. He's never done any LSD.
I don't need it.
Mine
I'm
like
one
a
of the
steel
lucky
trap.
ones.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.